Howdy everybody. So, you want to be a farmer, or maybe you just want to understand a little more about how things operate. Either way, I hope I can give you some insight as to what it's like to be a row crop farmer. Again, this will be specifically row crop farming. If you are interested in cattle side, my cousin runs an awesome YouTube channel for cattle called Hurricane Creek Farms. Just search them and you'll find him. He gives a lot of great information, really detailed information. So check them out. All right, so to start out, I guess I would just go from the beginning. First, there's some hard things you need to learn about farming if you're going to come into farming. And I'll write this down as like possibly, I'll put rule number one. It's probably not exactly the number one rule, but it's up there. Now, if you can read my terrible handwriting, again, every farmer is not your friend. That was probably one of the first hard pills for me to swallow when I came back to farming. Again, I grew up with my family farming and left, became a machinist, did that. I kind of needed to spread my own wings and came back to farming, started working for my dad as I was slowly building my own operation. And one of the early on things that I learned was how insanely cutthroat farming really is. And it is very cutthroat. Just to put it in plain terms there, it's tough. It's a dog eat dog world. And kind of how that would be is people that you think are your friends might try to rent some ground that you're working. And you know, the name of the game in farming is having land to farm. I mean, you can't produce a crop if you don't have the land. So you need the land. That is probably the hardest thing to acquire, I think. I've seen things that have said that the finances, getting financed and stuff like that was the number one challenge for farmers, young farmers, let me put it at that, young and beginning farmers, but I actually don't really think so. I think the hardest part is getting the land, and I have grown. I'll be going into my season now running my own operation, and I'm growing. I've grown at a pretty good pace, I feel like, but it's been through the help of good friends that frankly they weren't farmers at the time that they helped me out, because we kind of joke, several people, it's like vultures. If ground comes up, I mean, it's an insane herd that goes after it. I mean, and I don't say any of this to ruffle anybody's feathers. You know, if a farmer's watching, not saying this to ruffle your feathers. If it does ruffle your feathers, I would ask why. So the first one, though, is every farmer is not your friend. Now, having said that, some great friends of mine are also farmers, and I trust them very much. But the list is short on guys that I would trust with like my farm ground, I guess. So know that going in, that land, as hard as it is to come by now, people don't just offer that up. So be prepared in that aspect. Now, the next part is you need to kind of know how you're going to approach getting into it. There's a few ways to get into it. The best way, obviously, is if you have family that already farms. That was the situation I was in. My family farmed, and so I was able to pick up some ground, go and help them. While helping them, I was actively getting the equipment that I needed and buying a little here at a time and picking up a little bit of land as with time goes. And you know, eventually you get up to working, 1,000 acres or a little more, and you reach, if you do it right, you can make a pretty good living around that area, depending on the market and prices and all that, and we'll get into that. Now, a lot of people may be watching that don't have family that farmed, and it's just been a dream of theirs to get farmed. The two things are going to help you the most if you're in that boat. And that is, again, I like to utilize the whiteboard. I feel like I'm John Madden. Farm Services Agency, that's going to be what I would say is the initial route you want. They have a thing called young and or beginning farmers and ranchers loan. That's what you want to look up. If somebody's getting irritated that I'm taking the time to write this out, then just too bad, so sad. Young and or beginning farmers loan, that's the route you're going to want to go. They're going to do some sort of deal with you on land. You can get, probably right now, I don't know when you'll watch this video, I think currently there's something like $600,000 available, the loan for you to buy land. That's a real estate loan. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking it was around $1 million available for you to use to buy equipment. Now, if someone's watching, they're like, look at these freaking rich farmers. First off, that's a loan. You do have to pay it back. You have to pay it every year, your notes. So don't hear that and be like, man, yeah, I'm going to go buy me a Denali Duramax and all this. There's guys that do it, and guys that buy the biggest and baddest combines, and they'll spend every bit of that $1 million, and then they're scratching their heads because they only have 200 acres to farm and they've got $150,000 worth of equipment notes, and it just don't work. So you want to pace yourself here, but that's what you're going to want to look at. That's with Farm Services Agency. The second one, these are the two routes I would recommend. Farm Credit Mid-America. Now they have a beginning, I don't know, just look up young and or beginning farmers loan for both of them. It's going to pull up the same thing. Again, there, right here too. So you want to look that up on both of them. There's the ditto marks. Look that up and kind of see, and there's qualifications. I think on this one, you might have to put a little down payment down. It's low, but they'll go like 30 years, pretty good interest rate. The paperwork, the big plus with Farm Credit is it is so much easier to deal with them. Farm Service Agency, you're dealing with the government. That's all through the government. They can get you the best interest rates on your real estate loan, and they'll go the longest term. You can get like a 40-year loan with 3% interest or lower, maybe, but around that 3% interest rate, and that's freaking great. That's a great deal. Obviously, it fluctuates with what's going on. Joe Biden just won presidency. I don't have a lot to say about that. Right now, the rates are still good on those. So check out either one of those, and that's what you're going to want to start. I would actually try to buy a piece of property initially. There's a good line here to describe starting out farming, and that is there is more than one way to skin a cat. And that's pretty much farming in a nutshell. You can start a ton of different ways. If you don't have family in it, like I said initially, I would actually go try to work for a farmer. Go find a good farmer, somebody that's got a good reputation. Doesn't have to be a huge operator, but find somebody that's a good farmer and work for them, shadow them, and try to learn as much as you can, because that's going to help you, because farming is more than just running out and poking seed in the ground. You got to know varieties. You need to know your time when you got to plant, your chemical paths you're going to go. Are you going to do extend beans or Liberty beans? Are you going to do, stacked corn and all these different things? Do you want it to come off early beans, late beans? There's a lot of things to know. What fertilizers? I mean, it's not just sticking seed in the ground. I think it gets oversimplified in a lot of ways, but there is a lot of science to farming now. There's a lot of technology in it, and you don't have to spend a freaking boatload of money to get to start to use that technology. Somebody's like, well, how much ground do I need to start with? Keep your day job right now. Let's say you've got a job you work at. Let's say you're a machinist and you're working somewhere else. All right, there's 100 acres for sale, and this is all going to tie into the income and the expenses kind of thing. All right, let's say it's 120 acres for sale. Let's just say 100 acres to make things easy, because I'm not a math wizard. Let me get my phone out so I can have my calculator ready. All right, now, 100-acre farm here. Now, it's for sale for $2,500 an acre. Somebody is watching this and they're like, land goes for $5,000 an acre, $7,000 an acre here. Well, I'm in West Tennessee. Here, land goes from anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 an acre. Crazy money or dirt cheap. So we're just going to go $2,500 an acre, because remember, you are a beginning farmer. You're not a deep-pocketed, big bad dude here. So let's play the game a little smart. Get started. Got a 100-acre farm. You're going to buy it. $250,000. All right. Now, let's just figure up this real quick. I got a little loan calculator. 250 grand. You go FSA route. Don't put any money down. You get 3.2% interest rate, 40 years. Okay. 24. Your yearly note on that farm will be $11,088. That's I did 40-year term, 3.2% interest rate. I guess I'll write that down if somebody's really getting into that. 40 years, 3.2% interest. Your note comes out to $11,088 a year, annually. You pay most everything annually on the farm. And the majority of it's farmed. We'll say 91 acres of it's farmed, because in my area, you don't hardly find one block of ground that is solid field. Most of the time, there's some wood. So we'll say 91 acres farmed. All right. That is a hideous 91. That looks even worse. 91 acres farmed. Now, I like to kind of figure up roughly what it's costing me an acre on the cost. I'm only going to look at 91 acres as being productive. That's my productive acres. So 11,088 divided by 91. My yearly note comes out to about $121 per productive acre. Yep. So that 121 per acre. I'll put prod acre. So that's productive acre. I look at that. In my area, that's not very intimidating. Like, there's guys around here that are paying that much to rent farms, and there's guys paying a hell of a lot more than that to rent farms around here too. Pardon my language. So $121 an acre, you're off to a pretty decent start. Realistically, if you could get it down to even closer to $100 an acre, that'd feel even better. But for now, that will have to do. That's a quick rundown how you can kind of figure. Honestly, on buying a farm, again, this is all going to vary by area. You need to look in your area what the average real estate prices are going for agriculture ground. Again, this is not commercial property going for $10,000 an acre. I deal with that crap enough as it is. This is farm agriculture ground. That's what we're talking about. Got to make sure my little mic is still on. All right. Try to stay around that area. You want to be around in the ballpark of what people are renting ground for. Because if I can buy a farm for close to what people are renting it for, then I would buy that farm every day of the year. All right, now I need to make a note of this. You got, let's see here. We're going to try to keep up with these expenses, give you kind of a rundown how this all goes down. All right. We've got our $11,088 farm note. We're going to write 91 acres because that's our productive acres. Again, I don't really tally in the 9 acres. Okay. Now, you're starting from ground zero. Let's even add in another one. You got 91 acres. You got your grandmother has 42 acres that is farmed. She wants you to work it, and she's going to let you work it for $85 an acre. 42 acres. And that's $3,570. So you are big timing now. Like you have multiple farms now. You are a bad man. All right, so we got 91, 42. You're working 133 acres total. 133 acres. Your total note. People are laughing. I don't care. Gonna add this with a calculator. 11,088 plus 3,570. Total rent and land note 14,658. Sorry if you guys can pick up the heater and sounds of the chair and rolling and all that, but again, this mic is a lot better than just using the one on the camera. So that's what we're looking at on the real estate notes. 14,658. You've got to pay that at the end of the year. Now let's get into land. We're gonna make inputs. We're gonna make this simple. First year, you're going all beans. I figure typically on average around $200 an acre inputs on beans. Okay, what did I say? All right, $200. We're going to go soybeans the first year. You got $200 an acre inputs. That means your chemical, your seed, and your fertilizer. That's your cost on all 3 of those. That's your big 3 expenses. Chemical, seed, fertilizer. We're not going to figure in like your living or nothing. We're just going to do this right here. That's your input cost. Now, let's say, again, you don't have anything. So you've got old Jim Tom down the road. He's going to come and haul for you. Let's just say you pay him $1,500. Y'all agree he does your hauling. You got a little fuel cost. We'll say $1,500 in fuel cost. $200 an acre inputs. I better put acres so I don't figure all these up. $200 an acre inputs. $1,500. That's not an acre. That's total. $1,500 total hauling. $1,500 total fuel. And with any typical farming, there is breakdowns and repairs. You've got a smaller operation here. We'll just figure up, we'll say $2,000 worth the repairs. All right. I need to squiggle this so I'm not adding them in all per acre. That would be insanely expensive per acre. All right, now we're going to get into the equipment. I know you're like, but man, what about the equipment cost? We're going to get there. We're going step at a time. Right here, we're going to add up these first. 1,500, 1,500, 2,000. Okay. So there's $5,000. Let me make some more room here. All right, I'm going to erase the hauling, fuel, and repairs. Now I'm going to divide the $5,000 by the 133 acres, and that'll be our per acre cost. 133. That's $37.59 an acre. That is the Jim Tom cost, is what I'll call it, because you hired Jim Tom to haul and your fuel and all that, whatever. Okay, $200 an acre, $37.59. Now the equipment comes into the equation. Okay, this is where guys get stupid. Farming has a big draw, partly because the equipment is awesome. Tractors are cool, combines are cool. They're big, they're loud, they're bad, they're powerful. They're just cool things. I personally am a little privy to John Deere, but nowadays it seems like everything breaks down. But I digress. You got to get some equipment. We're going to start simple. Remember, you want to go simple. This is a lasting game. You don't want to just smother yourself and drown initially. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Remind yourself of that. Constantly remind yourself of that. You need a tractor. You need a planter. Now look, you could rent this stuff or custom hire it. I'm not going to figure that up, because then you get to all kinds of different prices that I just frankly don't keep up with a lot of that. So we're going to do it just like this. Tractor, planter. Now we're going no-till beans. No-till, you don't need a disc, you don't need a turbo till. We're going to go no-till, save the environment, go no-till. Here we go. Tractor, planter. You need a combine. You don't need a semi because Jim Tom is hauling for you. So don't figure in that. We will get a buggy. We're going to get an old buggy. This one tractor will do. Planter, combine, buggy. Honestly, that would probably do. You can get your seed delivered in bags. You're just gonna have to climb up there and dump it a bunch. You won't be able to use a seed tender, that kind of thing. You'll survive. All right, tractor, planter, combine, buggy. What am I gonna spend on that? I'll tell you now. You're gonna buy like a 4760, 4555, older John Deere 4000 series tractor. You can find some 8000 series John Deeres now, but if they're not just freaking clapped out, you're going to have to spend some money on them. They're going to have a ton of hours on them. I mean, I've got an 8420 that I just bought like last year. Very low hours for the year, and it was pushing $70,000. So we're going to go with the 4000 series. We're going to try to spend, you don't try to stay around that $30,000 range on your tractor. We're going to put $32,500 on our tractor. The planter, starting simple. We're getting a 15-foot soybean special, 5400 I think is what it's called, but it's a 15-foot soybean special. You found one for $6,500. That may be a little high. I don't really remember. Combine, another one. Search around. You don't need the biggest and the baddest. Try to find a good, reliable machine that's got some age on it. Yeah, you're going to have to work on it, but remember, we got $2,000 we figured up in there. On an older machine, that'll go further than it will obviously on a new one. So let's say you find a combine, an old one like a 9600 or 9610 or something for $35,000, and the buggy, you get just some like 500 bushel buggy for $5,000. You don't even have to have the buggy, but it is, you will be driving back and forth to the truck, and I would just get a buggy. So the total equipment, and we're not going to buy a service truck or anything right now because you're just going to use your pickup. Get over it. Okay, 32.5, and you can start to see, because this is slim pickings of equipment here and things, the expenses add up very fast. I don't know if we'll even make money with this equation right here, because this is a lot of expenses initially right here. This is why it's good to not quit your day job or have family, whereas if you had family, you might could just buy a combine the first year, or you might could just buy the tractor, try to get it paid for, then buy the next thing. So that's the advantage to if you have family, or even if you're working for somebody else and they'll kind of let you farm. Maybe you can start buying pieces of equipment at a time, because you're biting off a pretty good chunk. Even buying older stuff like this, your initial out the gate equipment cost, yeah, that's going to be $79,000. Because of these other expenses, you're going to actually shave some off of that. You're going to be even more conservative. Let's go 170. You're not quite in a position to maybe get quite as rowdy, because your expenses are so high elsewhere that you're like, okay, I'm going to shave some off. So we're going to shave off $30 an acre, $170 an acre. So 170 times 133. That's 610. That's your inputs. We'll go ahead and write down the 14,658 for your notes. That'll be land and rent. Gym time cost, and that's fuel, repair, and all that stuff. $37.59 per acre. That's $5,000. Gym time, and $79,000 equip. Okay, back to reality. So I had a major brain fart. You're financing all this like an idiot. I was figuring out if you paid that all off. Again, you're gonna get, now this stuff's old, so we're gonna say $79,000. We'll just leave the good interest rate. 5 years. They'll only go 5 years on stuff that's really old. 1426. Okay, that's much better. $17,112. That's your total equipment note, because you financed it with Farm Service Agency on the equipment loan or farm credit, whatever. But you went 5 years on that $79,000. You financed it. So $17,112. Equip. I think that's ugly. All right. Your total costs, rent, inputs, gym time, and equipment is $59,380. That is not very good when you're looking at only 133 productive acres. So here's where, let's see what we're going to come up with. All right. You followed along, you understand the costs. There's hidden costs in there. You're going to have some crop insurance. On that little bit of acres, it would not be very much. You're going to have to get crop insurance going through Farm Service Agency, and them, they will require it. 59,000. Okay, we've got 133 acres. Again, this is pretty good ground. Maybe it was a friend and they just don't care about money, so they sold it to you cheap. Those are hard to come by. All right, your bean crop is going to average 48 bushel. You get the range you needed. It's not just crazy, but that's a good yield overall. 48 bushel beans, 133 acres. Now 48 bushel beans, what I'm saying is an average per acre of 48 bushels. That's not too bad. You would like, that'd be all right. 133. So you're going to come up with 6,384 bushel of beans total. Now, the market is what you look at here. I'll look right now. Crop prices are unusually high. We have not seen them like this in a long time. You could get 1182 for beans. We're gonna say, because we're at a weird, let's say you can't really book a lot with that small of acres. I mean, you could book a little. By booking, I mean you could lock in a future price. If people want to know about that, you can ask me. I'm not a marketing guru, but I do try to do a lot of booking. We'll just say you get a price of $11.30. That is a pretty good price. I sold some for nearly $2 less than that last year. All right, 1130, 6,384. So your income on that altogether is 1130. Well, by golly, George, you did it. Look at this, $72,139.20. Expenses, income, profit is 59,380. Look at that. Dang it, you made $12,759. Boom. You came out. If you're in the green and not in the red, it's a good year. Now, that's only 133 acres. Obviously, you pick up more ground, you can increase that number. But as you pick up more ground, you'll increase that number. There's always a give and a take. Right here, that's, hopefully I've illustrated that well for you and you can really kind of follow what I'm putting down here, but that's a general idea of just a bean crop. You kind of saw your equipment costs, your various notes and expenses, inputs. But overall, you see, that's not a huge number. Like, all right, let's just figure up right here. That's on a 48 bushel average. Let's say that it's kind of turns off dry and your beans cut 38 bushel to the acre. 133 bushel, 5,054. We'll still use the 1130 times 1130, $57,000. You would lose $2,000. So you see how the yield swing can make such a huge difference. Also, in the last couple of years, we've been getting around $9 range for crop. This 1130 is really unheard of for the moment. So let's say 63.84, you still average 48 bushel to acre times 945. That's $60,000, 328 cents. You would make about $1,000 almost. So farming has a ton of variables that swing the prices, and that's why it's so tough. I mean, because you make a decent yield. If you're working somewhere else, like you still have a day job and you're working another job or helping another farmer or something, an additional $12,000 is pretty nice, but you can see why you would not want to quit your job just to farm 133 acres, because I don't know about you, but I can't live off $12,000. So as you increase in size, your costs increase. But that is the rundown of how that works. So you kind of saw my prices on what I would spend, but remember, more acres equals more risk. Yeah. It's easy to want to get big. I'm the same way. I still am constantly trying to come up with how the heck can I get more ground. Don't forget this and try to grow slow. Like I said, this will be my 7th season. It's been a slow growth, a good growth, but a slow growth. And I'm glad, in essence, because it's allowed me to kind of get my feet wet as I go along. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to dive off into it so hard that you get smothered, because you saw like on 133 acres, you're dealing with expenses of like $59,000. Let's go to 1,000 acres and you're dealing with expenses of like $500,000. That gets pretty wild pretty quick. You know, then you think about guys working 10,000 acres and they're dealing with like millions of dollars. So it's not always the goal to get to be a huge farmer. Ideally, myself personally, I'd like to get to a good 2,500 acres and just maximize those acres. That's kind of where I want to be. I also like to enjoy myself. I have hobbies. I don't want to get up every day only to go to the farm. I like to do other things. I enjoy time with my family. So weigh all the options. And again, remember, not every farmer is your friend. Approach this intelligently. Now, this has been a long-winded explanation of how you kind of get started. I'll probably do a series. I may make this into like a series because there's so much that I could talk about. That's the basic rundown, though. Don't overload your wagon. You know, try to, if you don't have family that farms, go work for a farmer, or do not quit your freaking day job and farm until you can. Now, the burning question is, how the heck do you get more land? That is a great question. That's a question that I wish that I had a great answer for. The way that I'll tell you not to go about getting land is don't go behind guys' backs offering higher rent. Even if that guy is a turd, I still don't recommend doing that because I don't do that and I sleep well at night. I'm not at night or laying in my bed thinking, is what I'm doing wrong? Am I a jerk? I know that I'm not, and that is value to me. I value integrity and being a good man. Be a good man. You know, farmers to me, they were iconic for being men of integrity, kind of the backbone of the country. And I got into farming full time, and there's several that are just, honestly, they're just kind of snakes. And it really, I hated to see that. But then I'm reminded by the ones that are not, and the ones that are actually really great guys, there are still farmers that are men of integrity and are the backbone of the country. So that is what you need to strive for. Get in it, get in, be a good person, be a good man, put your nose to the grindstone, work hard, and do your best to grow great crops and just stay in the game, and it will change hands. There's only so much land, but not all these huge guys can run the world. So stay in the game. It'll change hands. As long as you're doing a good job, people will notice. So that's my advice there. I hope this helped. If there's any specifics that you guys would like to know, like you really want to get, if there's some detailed question or something you'd like for me to answer like this, I would love to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful in some way to anybody that's either wanting to get into farming or just kind of curious, man, how does the expenses work? Are these guys just rolling in the dough? Some guy would be like, oh yeah, well they're getting a government payment on top of that. Don't even get me started on that. First off, on 133 acres, if he got a government payment, it would be like $1,000. So just don't get me started on that. Anyways, there you go, folks. Shoot me a question below if you got any questions, and I'll try to help you out. Thanks.